Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys. It's Saturday, February the 3rd. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Alex B. Smith and Dana Lane as we are ready to break down the Saturday NHL card from a betting perspective. Looking forward to it. As always, a busy Saturday in the NHL. So let's get right down to it. It's, again, a loaded slate to break down. We'll begin at the top of the card. Ottawa, Philadelphia, 1-2 on the rotation. 1:05 p.m. Eastern start for this game. Philly laying a big price, -210. The total 5.5 shaded to the under. Going to keep things really brief in this hockey game. You've got Philadelphia kind of trending over the last couple games. You got Ottawa, pretty much a stone cold under team as of late, having trouble scoring goals. We continue to see that. Give them credit for a nice overtime win the other night, though, against Anaheim. Very good win for the Ottawa Senators, and just did enough to get the job done. And that's the thing. When you're looking at Ottawa in these price ranges, it seems on a nightly, daily basis, it's a situation where you're going to have to take a shot or two every now and then to try to get a bet on this team. Because for as bad as things have gone, we know they're selling at the trade deadline. We know the playoffs are likely not happening for this team, but there's going to be a spot here or there where they're just catching too big of a price. You could argue this is that spot, but Philadelphia is probably a team that's looking to be a desperate team coming into this game. They lost to Washington on Wednesday night. They lost in overtime to the New Jersey Devils the other night. So it's a situation where Philadelphia should be desperate. They need a win. This is a team that you should win on home ice against. So for me, it's going to be a clear pass. Don't want to lay that price, but don't really have a rushing need to take Ottawa here in this game. Maybe a lean to the under here. We know it's an early start. Sometimes those games are sluggish, can lead to a little bit of a plodding affair. And we know Ottawa has definitely had times at struggles at times keeping the puck out of their own net. Philadelphia's had trouble or putting the puck in the net. Philadelphia's had trouble keeping the puck out of their net. So something's got to give in that regard. But I'd still lean to the under in this game, but overall not a game I'm probably going to get involved with from a betting standpoint. Ottawa-Philadelphia is a game that Dana's going to get involved in from a betting standpoint. Flyers and Senators early start action. Dana, what are you looking at betting here in this early game today?
I think the apocalypse is upon us because of my betting pattern today, and I really don't understand why it came to be. I'm usually an under guy, but man, I am going crazy with overs today. In Ottawa, Philadelphia, I know. I hear you, man. I'm in a plus price kind of mood this morning. Maybe it's the lack of sleep or whatever, but we want to make sure, and I've said this 100 times, when we're betting an over, we want to make sure that we have some sort of an advantage on special teams, because special teams is going to give us could give us at least 1, 2, maybe 3 goals. So I think sometimes when we're betting on these games, we kind of look at things in terms of 5-on-5 too much, when in fact those special teams is what could push games over or keep them under when you're inefficient in those areas. The Senators and the Flyers are both horrible penalty kill teams. Ottawa's finding success only 75% of the time, which is 28th in the league, and Philly's killing off penalties at a rate of just under 74%, which is even worse at 30th in the league. We also have a situation where the Flyers are 8th in the National Hockey League in power play success. So I think from that standpoint, we have a scenario here that's ripe for success, taking a plus number. I think both teams will have plenty of scoring chances. I think both teams are starting to get some decent play, or at least I anticipate some decent play from their center position. This is trade deadline time, and you'll see guys up their game a little bit for various reasons. But if there's anyone who's definitely is up their game from last year to this year, it's Claude Giroux, and this is a guy that typically has a good game against Ottawa. And for the Senators, we may, look. Slowly but surely, Duchesne is starting to earn the trust that the Senators gave him. He's been pretty good lately. Unfortunately, his line mates have not. They haven't been giving him anything. But, down the middle, if Duchesne gets going, and I think Broussard is going to have a good game, because he typically has a good game against the Philadelphia Flyers. So if you can rely on teams down the middle, you can rely on them at least giving you 1 or 2 goals on the power play. I think that's that's a formula for success when you're betting the over. And of course, Travis Konechny has been absolutely on fire as well. In fact, the last time these guys met, he's had or overall against Philly, he's got 7 points in 7 games, and had 2 points in their early encounter as well. So, look, I'm. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's in my coffee, but I'm going to take the over in this game at plus $1.10 at 5 times.
All right, this is a something's got to give game, and Dana's going to think that the Philly leaky defense is going to show up more than the leaky Ottawa offense. So over 5.5 here with the Sens and Flyers for Dana. Very interesting game because you're right, something's got to give. Philly has had a brutal time keeping the puck out of their own net, and oftentimes we've seen Ottawa struggle to even get crack 2-3 goals, let alone more than that. So something's got to give in this game. We'll see what ends up happening, Ottawa, Philly, but Dana's going to say we see some goals. We see the red light district showing up in the city of brotherly love today, the day before their Eagles take on the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So maybe that's going to add to a little bit of an enthusiastic atmosphere, extra than it would be for a Saturday afternoon Flyer game. So over 5.5 for Dana in that one, Ottawa, Philly. I don't have much more to say about the next game. Anaheim, Montreal, 3-4 on the rotation. Another early game, 1:05 Eastern, puck drop, 10:05 a.m. Pacific, no line, no total as of yet. Of course, we've got a goaltending issue with Anaheim. John Gibson injured day-to-day. Remember, he suffered that injury Tuesday in the game against the Boston Bruins. We're not sure if he's going to be back today. If not, they've got a capable guy in Ryan Miller who played very well, who's played very well for the most part this season for the Anaheim Ducks. Was on the losing end of that Ottawa game the other night, but he still played well. 2-1 loss. Anaheim just couldn't find the back of the net, oddly enough, against the Senators the other night. And Mike Condon, who was in net, actually came up with a very, very good game in net for Ottawa that night in helping the Senators defeat the Anaheim Ducks. I think Anaheim's in a good bounce-back spot. We've talked about it. We talked about it on Thursday's show on the ice, guys. What more can we do? You can only beat the shit out of someone so much, and they're already bloodied. They're already, needing to go to the hospital and get treated. And that seems to be the Montreal Canadiens right now. I mean, how much more can we beat up on these poor guys for the way they're playing? I mean, it's just another dreadful loss the other night against the Carolina Hurricanes. Just another poor performance, just another inept offensive showing from another team that can't put the puck in the ocean right now. Nobody can step up right now, or has stepped up offensively lately for the Montreal Canadiens. So it's clear I want no part of this team right now, not at any point in the near future. So it's just a question of, are you going to get the value to step in and back Anaheim, considering they were laying, on the fringe of my price range against Ottawa the last game. I doubt I'm going to get a ton of value here against Montreal. But again, if you're willing to lay a moderate road favorite type of price here, and it doesn't bother you, you can go for it. I would still, you have my blessing, because there's the only way I'm playing this from a side perspective is Anaheim. Probably the only way I'm playing this from a totals perspective is the under, because again, Montreal, I'm going to dare them to find ways to score goals right now. They have not been able to do it. So lean Anaheim, lean under the total in that game for me. Anaheim, Montreal, an early start action this afternoon. Turning our attention to tonight now, the rest of the games all at night. Detroit, Florida, 5-6 on the rotation. Florida, minus 150 on home ice in this hockey game. The total 5.5, pretty much across the board entering this one. Very interesting to see what the Florida Panthers, if they keep riding Harry Sateri in net, because he actually has played better the last couple games. I would expect him to be back in there tonight, no question. The Detroit Red Wings, a 4-1 win for them last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. And it's funny, I had a small piece of that game under the total. And when I got the last-minute word that Scott Darling was in net for Carolina, I'm like, oh, my God, here we go. Scott Darling, the underkiller. I'm in some trouble right now here in this game. But nope, just did enough. 4 goals, and thankfully Carolina kept themselves quiet, and that game ended up 4-1 last night, Red Wings and Hurricanes. So good to see that. Detroit finally got some offense going. Now, was it a product of them facing Darling, who, of course, has had a really poor season for the Hurricanes not so sure, but I think they're going to be able to take some confidence from that game into this one here against Florida. I'm still not sold on this Florida Panthers team from a defensive perspective. Still not sold on Sateri. You still got to show me a larger body of work than 2 games against the suddenly struggling Islander offense and the Buffalo Sabres to prove to me he's going to be a consistent and reliable option in net for them. So I think Detroit's going to dent the Florida goal a little bit tonight. I get the confidence that they finally woke up offensively last night. And on the flip side, you got to like where Florida is offensively right now. 4-1 win against the Islanders Tuesday night. They put up another 4 spot against Buffalo the other night. I like this. We know Alexander Barkov's been tremendous. We know that. But all of a sudden, Huberdeau playing with Trocheck and Dennis Malgin, my goodness. This line all of a sudden has really come alive for the Florida Panthers. Has helped them. It's provided them with secondary scoring. Detroit had Peter Mrazek in net, and if you've been following the Red Wings lately, Mrazek's been the better goalie lately for the Detroit Red Wings, so you might see Howard back in there, and he's been not very good, and that's to say the least as of late. So if we see him in there, you know where I'm going. We had a Florida-Buffalo over 5.5 winner the other night on the show. I did. I'm going to go back to that same thought here. Over 5.5 with Florida and Detroit. I think we're going to get some goals in this game. And especially if Howard's in net, don't trust him. And Florida's offense starting to surge. And Florida, from a totals perspective on home ice, a very strong over team on home ice this season have been the Florida Panthers. So we're going to go over 5.5, Red Wings and Panthers in that hockey game tonight. Dana Lane also has a play Detroit, Florida. What are you looking at here, Dana?
Yeah, just to kind of play off of that, and those are excellent points about the Panthers. And you guys know that it's really difficult betting an over when the Red Wings are involved, because this is a team that doesn't get a lot of shots on net, and coincidentally, they don't get a lot of goals. So they're poor in both of those areas. And the problem with betting teams that don't generate a lot of shots, besides the obvious, is that teams that have a tendency to generate a lot of shots also have a tendency to give up a lot of shots because of the transition. But the trend seems to be changing a little bit for the Red Wings. The other night they had shot 38 shots on goal on Scott Darling, but because of that, as we talked about, the transition, they gave up 38. Last night's game didn't go over the total, but when you're going to guarantee me somewhere between 74 and 76 shots a game, I'm going to take my chances on the over. And I thought Detroit played with this, just like I saw them when they came here to T-Mobile. I thought they played with a lot of speed, and a lot of times speed leads to confidence, or where confidence leads to speed. But I think there's a lot of confidence in their game right now, and they were the first team to come into T-Mobile that I really thought had a ton of speed. And I've seen a lot of games there against the Golden Knights, and that they were the one team that really stuck out to me as a team that, if they do get in the playoffs, might be able to make some noise, because there's no doubt that there's speed on this Red Wing team. Even in the Sharks game, which ended in a 2-1 game, Detroit managed 43 shots on net. So now they've totaled 81 in 2 games. Still hasn't yielded an over yet, but I think the dam is about to break, especially against the Panthers, another team that gets a ton of shots on net. And in fact, they're tied for first in the league at almost 35 shots a game. So I think this game is the tempo of this game is going to be back and forth. I think you're going to get a ton of opportunities, and in order for this game to go under, both netminders are going to have to stand on their head. But I think the dam is about to break. I think that there's going to be an over in the Red Wings game. It's a minus $1.05 basically across the board. So you're getting a good number with that. Not a plus number, but getting a good number with that. And I hope all these overs don't come back to kill me.
Well, the funny thing is, I was watching Detroit, Carolina last night. It got to 4-1. I'm like, geez, we're walking a tightrope here under the total. I mean, this thing, look at the shots. It's like 38-37 one time. I looked at the shots, and I'm like, boy, we're going to be fortunate if this one stays under. It did. But yeah, if you're going to play around and you're going to play with fire of mid to high 30s shots on goal, in a game involving both teams getting to that number, you're going to have a tough time keeping a game under the total more often than not. Again, with Harry Sateri, I've got to see more of it. I'm not sold yet, because again, your 2 step-up performances came against a bad Islander team, a bad Islander offense right now. Like that Islander offense has really fallen off the last week or so. And then the Buffalo Sabres, which is not saying a whole lot. So you got to keep showing me if you're Harry Sateri that you're a consistent, reliable option, because before that he was getting lit up like a Christmas tree. He was absolutely horrendous before these last two games. So we're still looking to find that consistency with him in net. Certainly from a Jimmy Howard perspective, there's a reason why he's had a drop off in minutes, drop off in starts. As of late, he's been the inferior of the two options for Jeff Blashill and the Detroit Red Wings. So I don't trust him one bit. In between the pipes going into this game either. So, and I think that's going to be your projected matchup, Howard and Sateri. So definitely agreement over 5.5, Detroit, Florida in that game tonight. We've got St. Louis, Buffalo, 7-8 on the rotation. St. Louis laying minus 155 to minus 165 on the road. In this hockey game, the total is a 5. That's right. Oh my goodness, am I seeing that correctly? A 5. Thought those days were over. I thought we got rid of those damn things. 5 is back with a total here in the NHL. Holy mackerel, I can't believe it. 5 shaded to the over at minus 130, minus 135. We're back to the 2010 era or something like that. Back with 5s where playoff hockey apparently has arrived on February the 3rd. Okay. Total of 5, St. Louis and Buffalo. You could see why, though. I mean, Buffalo's still having trouble offensively. I guess if you're going to make a case for one game being a 5 for a total, this would be it. St. Louis is not exactly an offensive juggernaut and a great defensive team. We definitely know that about the St. Louis Blues. They've easily, trended under for quite some time now. We know Jaden Schwartz back certainly helps this Blues team without a doubt. So you can understand why this would be the game where you see suddenly a 5 show up in terms of the total. Really not going to do a whole lot with this game. I mean, from a value perspective, clearly, I mean, you could take a stab, with a rare 5 to go over, but not sure these are the two teams I want to do that with, the Blues and the Sabres, and I don't want to trust Buffalo to do anything in terms of winning a game against a good hockey team, which St. Louis is. St. Louis coming off the loss to Boston the other night, so I think we're going to get a pretty good effort from the Blues here in this hockey game tonight, regardless of who's in net. Allen played well against Boston. He's not the reason they lost that game. So Allen did seem to get some confidence back with his performance, albeit in a losing effort against the Bruins the other night. So whether they go with a Allen or Hutton, I don't know if Buffalo is going to be able to dent this Blues team and find the back of the net a ton. So that's the problem. There's value to the over because when's the last time we've seen a 5? I understand that, but I'm not sure these are the two teams I'm going to pull the trigger and do that with. So I'm going to stay away probably from Blues Sabres, maybe Blues puck line, because Buffalo sometimes when they lose, they can lose by margin. They lost by 2 against Florida. Remember, Dallas went into Buffalo a while back at home and just buried the Sabres. So maybe they're a little shade of value on the Blues puck line here in this game. Minus 1.5 could be one of those 3-1 type of games, 4-1, something like that. I could easily see that kind of score tonight in favor of St. Louis. We've got Winnipeg minus 185 against the Colorado Avalanche, 9-10 on the rotation. The total 5.5, slightly shaded to the over, about minus 115. And all of a sudden, Colorado started to trend a little bit more under the total. And understandably, I mean, without Nathan MacKinnon, it's obviously a big absence for Colorado. He had been absolutely the catalyst driving that team through the tremendous winning streak they had in the month of January, playing fantastic hockey. But there's been some other guys that have stepped up, played well too. JT Compher, who had the game winner in overtime the other night against the can't get out of their own way Edmonton Oilers. He has played pretty well as of late as well for the Colorado Avalanche. So they're getting some other guys helping out, but there's no doubt they're going to miss MacKinnon. He was just such a big part of what they were doing to the positive. The Winnipeg Jets get stunned by the Vegas Golden Knights, much like Calgary did earlier this week, losing in overtime 3-2 to the Golden Knights. A very good hockey game the other night, but still overall, you got to like where Winnipeg is at right now at both ends of the ice. We know offensively they've got a ton of weapons, and that's even without being without Mark Scheifele for an extended period of time, who's now back practicing again, so he should be back fairly soon. They've had tremendous offense all year, but finally defensively, they're playing better at that end of the ice. Connor Hellebuck has had a terrific season for the Winnipeg Jets. So you get them at home, you get them off a loss. I'm not in any rush to back Colorado here in this game tonight. I know they beat Edmonton, snapped their little funk, but Edmonton's kind of like the cure-all for teams that are struggling right now. It's going to be a tougher test, no question about it, here for the Avalanche tonight. Taking on Winnipeg, but again, minus 185. Definitely out of my price range to back the Jets in this game. So it's a game I'll be staying away from. We got Columbus and the
Ian,
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to add something in that game as well. Understand in the fashion that Winnipeg might be on. They might be really focused on winning, not only winning this game but crushing on this game, just due to the fact that they are up in arms about the James Neal incident in front of Hellebuck the other night. And I'm telling you,
yes,
to a man,
that's right.
I mean, they got on the post-game show. They couldn't get on fast enough to talk about how they felt like that they were wrong. Now, I don't happen to agree with that by the letter of the law, but believe me, this team is going to be fired up to lay it to Colorado tonight.
Yeah, and I remember Hellebuck just absolutely, and in his post-game comments, he was irate. I mean, he was just saying, we don't even know what the rule is. We don't even know what they're going to call game to game now in terms of this. So, he was absolutely furious. The whole team was. Paul Maurice wasn't happy. So, that was definitely a controversial moment in that game, one that did not go in favor of the Winnipeg Jets. And, Colorado, again, they've had a tougher time lately. No McKinnon. Winnipeg looking to bounce back at home off a loss, and they've still got one of the better home records, Winnipeg, in the NHL. I don't even remember the last time they lost 2 straight home games, which would be the case if they somehow lost tonight to the Colorado Avalanche. So, yeah, and in terms of the Avs, I'm not interested. But again, Winnipeg, probably you'd have to look puck line. And Dana's sort of hinting at that there, that maybe they do win by margin tonight, 2 goals or more. Jets puck line. If you really want to get after the Winnipeg side, that's definitely something that you can consider, looking at Winnipeg minus the 1.5 here tonight, hosting the Colorado Avalanche. We got Columbus and the New York Islanders, 11-12 on the rotation. We got no line as of yet for this hockey game, but all of a sudden we've got Columbus starting to sputter and struggle a little bit. I thought they were sitting in a good spot, good situation, and maybe bounce back last night against a struggling San Jose team. San Jose's been a little up and down as of late, but can't get the job done. Columbus losing at home to the San Jose Sharks last night, and now in a situation where you're starting to slump. Now you're on the second night of back-to-back games, but you're also taking on another slumping team. So someone's going to bust out of a little funk here tonight, the New York Islanders, and where's all of a sudden this one of the highest scoring teams in the NHL all season hasn't been able to find their offense in recent games. 1 goal in the last 2 games combined for the New York Islanders against Florida and Toronto. Got shut out by the Leafs on Wednesday night. So this is a team all of a sudden trying to find their gear again offensively after just lighting it up pretty much for the whole first half of the season. Then the All-Star break hits, and now all of a sudden, where's the scoring gone for the New York Islanders? So we'll see if they can regain that touch tonight. I personally think if it wasn't a back-to-back, I'd be stronger on Columbus. I still think they're the better of these 2 hockey teams. I'd lean to the Jackets, but again, I'm not in love with their current form right now. Can't be in love with the spot, them playing the second night of back-to-back games here, the Jackets. And, we might end up seeing their backup goalie in net tonight as well. The Jackets, something to keep in mind with them on the second night of back-to-back games. It might be a time for a Eunice Corpusalo sighting, so it's something you want to keep in mind if you're going to be looking to play the Jackets side of the equation here in this game. I'd still lean that way, but not playing good, either of these 2 teams. I just have a little more faith in the Jackets right now of maybe busting out of their slump than the New York Islanders. So a lean to the Jackets, but probably a game I'll pass on. We'll have to see where that number comes out. We got Toronto, Boston, 13-14 on the rotation. Boston minus 125 to minus 130, home favorite, total 5.5 shaded to the under. This is a huge game in the Atlantic Division because these are 2 teams neck and neck for second in the Atlantic. Why is that important? Well, it means home ice advantage in the first round. I would think that that's something that both of these teams want. The Leafs and the Bruins, especially with the way both of them have played on home ice. I mean, it's been a situation where you want home ice. So it's a big game in the standings, big head-to-head matchup. So your games both teams are going to want to win. There's no question. Boston had that real clunker of a game against Anaheim, first game after the break. They did bounce back, beating St. Louis 3-1 on Thursday night. And really played a very good hockey game. I mean, Jake Allen was fantastic in net. They probably could have scored more than the 3 goals they ended up getting. Boston, a very good game without Marchand, which is a positive sign for the Boston Bruins for sure. We were wondering if this team was going to be able to keep on, churning on. And really, outside of the Anaheim game, they got back on track the other night with a solid 60-minute effort. Bruce Cassidy will absolutely be happy with the way Bruins played that night. Toronto, all of a sudden, boy, Mike Babcock has made tremendous changes to his lineup. Wants more speed, more attack, more. He wants this team to be faster, play quicker, and boy, they've played quicker. Their offense has come to life again. It's starting to look like the early season Leafs again in terms of their offensive production. 5-0 to the Islanders Wednesday night. They shut out the rain, back-to-back shutouts too for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. Even with Curtis McElhinney, it's time to stop talking about that guy like he's a piece of garbage. He's not. He's played very, very well in a backup role for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'm talking about me. I've often said, Curtis McElhinney, he's up and down. He's played really well. And he played well again against the New York Rangers the other night. But I'm sure we'll see Freddie Anderson back in net tonight for the Leafs. Now, Alex B. Smith brought up something about the Leafs maybe dealing with a little bit of a flu bug going into this game, something you want to keep in mind. I was leaning Toronto for sure. I like the speed that they've got going through their lineup right now. Kasperi Kapanen on the fourth line's been big. They take Matt Martin out, who's more of a physical player, a slower player. That's made a difference for Toronto. More speed on the fourth line. They move up Mitch Marner to the Kadri line, the second line. That's made a big-time difference as well. More speed up there as well. I think just in general, you got more offensive depth now if you're Babcock with these lineup changes. And all of a sudden, these two young defensemen you've got in there because of injuries, Travis Dermott and Hull, who have actually both scored goals this week. In Hull's case, multiple goals for the Leafs. They've got some good quicks and good skating ability from the back end on defense. So this just looks like, in general, a much faster, quicker, and more offensively creative hockey team these last few games since the Leafs had these lineup changes in effect. So I think, again, I was leaning that direction, but this flu situation, we're going to have to do some more looking into it. Who's going to be in, who's going to be out, if there's going to be any lineup changes because of it. But it's a game that to be announced for me in terms of whether I actually go ahead and pull the trigger on this one from a side perspective. Dana Lane's also wanting to talk Leafs and Bruins tonight on the show. What are you looking at? This is a big game. Looking forward to it. It's hockey night in Canada. Be a lot of fun watching this game as these two teams battle for second in the Atlantic Division, temporary hold of second in the Atlantic. Dana, what are you looking at in this game?
Well, first I want to make sure that Alex is still with us. I want to make sure he's still good. So I wanted to give a shout out to Alex, and we'll be with you soon.
No, I'm here.
Okay.
His card is backloaded. It's all at the bottom of the rotation. So Alex is here. We'll be getting to him.
I like to get out of the way so I can sit back and enjoy the show. And that's all good points about the Leafs. And you were reading the Toronto press yesterday, and the Alex Galchenyuk rumors started to kind of get floated out there a little bit. I will say there's something about the flu epidemic, and don't get too crazy on these things, because there's one game, and luckily I was on the right side of it last year. I believe it was definitely Nashville was involved, and I guess they were playing Pittsburgh as well, where Nashville. Before the game, it was reported that at least half the team was sick. Well, somehow they decided that that was fine, and then they went on to beat the Penguins anyway. So don't load up on disease-ridden teams, because there's a lot of guys behind them that want to prove themselves as well. So anyway, going back to the Leafs. This is a team, really, if you had to point out to the one guy that's not really contributing, it has to be Patrick Marleau. And that's probably why the Galchenyuk rumors were floated out there by the media the other day. Because if Galchenyuk goes there, he'll certainly lose his spot on the left side. But, honestly, if Marleau, who only has 2 points in the last 13 games, decides to get involved in the offense, I mean, they have not only two lines that are potent, they have two elite lines, and this is an offense that's already seventh in the National Hockey League. So if he can get going, man, this team is, like you said, Ian, that they've become that old transition team that we have seen earlier in the year, and last time out against the Rangers, when they beat them 4-0, don't put so much into that, because when teams get 3-goal leads, even sometimes they get 2-goal leads, they completely change their focus and the way that they do things. So you don't say, oh well, it was they score 4 goals and allowed none, and well, that the allowing none, once you get ahead by a certain margin, I mean, it's almost like just packing it in and daring the other team to get a puck to the net. So it really prevents a normal game. With a normal game where you have a lot of ebbs and flows to it, you're not going to have that in a 3 or 4 goal game. I think that the Leafs have plenty to beat Boston. They also have the motivation behind them, which I love. But it really it's the total in this game that has my attention. We talked about teams giving up chances because they create chances. Both of these teams are going to play up tempo, and the Bruins played up-tempo hockey under Julian. In fact, if you go back and look at the numbers, they were in the top 2, top 3 in shots on net, which is very uncharacteristic of what a Julian team usually does. But now Bruce Cassidy has also taken his philosophy, which is certainly a more up-tempo style of hockey, and applied it to the Bruins. And again, like we talked about in the earlier game, I just feel this game is going to be high tempo, high energy, with a bunch of scoring chances. And yes, the Bruins have had a lot of injuries, and yes, the Marchand suspension hurts, but there's been a lot of guys that have stepped up and played extremely well. And this is going to bode well for the Bruins moving forward, because when you get to the postseason, there's not going to be a lot of wide-eyed kids that have never been involved in big games. So that is a positive for the Bruins. But tonight, getting even money, I'm going to do it again, guys. I'm going to go over. I mean, this feels so weird for me, but I got 3 games and they're all going over.
All right, Leafs Bruins over the total, and they've played with the pace of an over the last. It's funny, the last 2 games with Toronto have stayed under, but they've had an over pace to them. If you've watched them, there's been up and down the ice, up and down. They're like, this is a fast hockey team now. With like I said, with the lineup changes, and they had to. I mean, Mike Babcock was sick of seeing this team that had started the season so well offensively, all of a sudden just 1, 2, 3 goals, it seems, were all the Leafs were getting in so many games. And now he said, we just need to be quicker. As a team, just have more foot speed through all 4 lines and through the defense. And right now they've got that. So if it's got any sort of pace, like we've seen in the last 2 Leaf games against the Islanders and the Rangers, the 2 New York teams, it's got a decent chance to go over the total, I would think. So yeah, I've got no argument with looking over 5.5 there. I'm also thinking of Toronto plus price here, but again, we'll see where the lineup situation is. It's Dad's trip, remember, and we know that's worked pretty well. For a lot of these teams that have played well when the dads have been going on the trip. The Blues are on that same situation as well. It didn't work for them last night, though. So, again, that's why you never blindly bet these things when they happen. Yeah, it's good to know when the dad's trips are happening, but they don't always win. That's always something that's very important to stress that out. So you can't just blindly bet that. That being said, I'm still leaning Leafs and have no argument looking over 5.5. Pittsburgh, New Jersey, 15-16 on the rotation. We've got no number here. 7-4 win for the Pittsburgh Penguins last night against the Washington Capitals. I would say one of the easiest wins I've had all season. I had over 5.5 in that game, and wow, wasn't even in doubt. Really good situation, too, for goals. We have a Washington power play that's been good lately. Pittsburgh penalty kill that's been a little bit shaky. And Pittsburgh just in general, 3+ goals scored now in 10 of their last 11 games. They found their offensive footing again, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are looking like that Penguins team we expect that's capable of putting up 5, 6+ goals on a regular basis. Not every night, but on a lot of nights with the kind of firepower that they can throw out there. And you know what's scary is they hung a 7 spot on Washington last night. He was still, at least a competent enough defensive team on most nights. They did that without Connor Sherry, too, who's actually changed his pronunciation, by the way. It's no longer Sherry, it's actually Sherry, as in the drink. So I don't know why that happened all of a sudden, but here we go, another guy changing his name and his pronunciation of it out of the blue. But yeah, now it's Connor Sherry, but he's injured now, and yet Pittsburgh was still able to hang a 7 spot last night against the Washington Capitals in impressive fashion. And one thing about New Jersey is we've not seen them play great defensively by any stretch as of late. So I'm a little concerned about this game from a defensive perspective for New Jersey. Although offensively, again, Taylor Hall's back. That makes all the difference in the world. They get him back from injury, and all of a sudden New Jersey beats Buffalo, and they beat Philadelphia 4-3 the other night. So, and their offense is definitely much better when Taylor Hall's in the lineup. So this is another game I'd have to look. It's the theme of overs tonight. Could be a grand salami overnight, but again, if I'm looking at this game, it's over or pass for me right now. Pittsburgh and New Jersey in this game. I don't know what the Devils are going to be able to do with the Penguins in this kind of offensive form that they're in right now to stop them. But on the same point in time, New Jersey, again, we know they're better offensively, as healthy as they've been up front for quite some time, capable of maybe returning fire. So I'm looking over. We'll see what we get in terms of the total, but that's my lean. If I play that game, Penguins Devils will look over the total. Rangers Nashville 17-18. Nashville minus 175 to minus 180, home favorite. The total 5.5, pretty much across the board. And you know what? We've given teams that have been struggling a lot of grief this season. Montreal, maybe more than anybody, but it's time to give this New York Rangers team some grief. They look completely lost in their own zone. They don't know what to do with the puck when they've got it on the stick in their own zone. They'll turn it over, they'll throw it up the middle, they'll just do something stupid with it, something completely brain dead, and the next thing you know, the puck's in the back of their net. That has been the New York Rangers game for like 2 weeks. This shit with them started 2 weeks ago when they came off their 10-day break that the league mandates. Everybody goes through that 10-day break. Rangers had that break, and since then they've been a sieve defensively. They can't make a play in their own zone without a turnover. They can't not run around in their own zone without taking a penalty and giving another team a power play, and usually they can't kill it off. And then they can't get a save from Henrik Lundqvist most nights, or Andre Pavlik. Doesn't matter which of those guys is in net right now. They're not getting a save from anybody at this point in time. This is a dreadful Rangers team. And I think the writing is on the wall. You're starting to see it in the way they're talking after the game and Alain Vigneault's face. This team is closer to missing than making the playoffs. Selling at the trade deadline is becoming more and more of a likely option, I think, for this team. I don't think they're going anywhere the way they're playing. Not at all. I mean, we got to stop talking about this team like they were 3-4 years ago, one of the better teams in the East. That's not this Rangers team. Offensively, they're plodding. Some games you get a good effort out of them and scoring goals, and some games that you can get shut down. And in their own zone, they're a mess. They're a complete and utter disaster right now. In their own zone. Mark Stahl's not playing good. Ryan McDonough's turning the puck over. The captain of the team turning the puck over and treating the puck like a hand grenade is not going to instill confidence in the rest of the team. And that's what we're seeing right now from McDonough. He was awful in the game against Toronto the other night. I don't know if I can remember the last time he played that poorly in terms of his own zone play. It was dreadful. This blue line doesn't do anything to excite me. Rick Nash goes in and out of scoring droughts and scoring streaks like nobody's business. You don't know what Rick Nash is showing up night to night. There's just a ton of issues right now with this Rangers team. Very frustrating team. I'm sure Alain Vigneault's very frustrated, and I want no part of them right now. This is a team that's not respecting the game whatsoever defensively. That's a problem. On the flip side, you got Nashville with a very good effort the other night, absolutely pounded the Kings and in a situation where clearly that team was bouncing back from the first loss they had after the break against Chicago. Mike Fisher news, I'm sure gave them a little bit of adrenaline, energy boost going into that hockey game as well. I got no problem going ahead and laying a puck line, -1.5 here with the Nashville Predators tonight. The Rangers are a complete disaster area right now, a dumpster fire even. Like, you look at their recent numbers defensively, it's been horrendous from this Rangers team. Till I see signs where they clean up their play in their own zone, it's a complete fade city for me. Nashville puck line -1.5. Get the plus price value. Absolutely something worth looking at. That was supposed to be a step up spot for the Rangers against Toronto. Back from the break, they were struggling going into the break, and they had just completely laid an egg. I mean, they were dominated at both ends of the ice. That doesn't bode well to me. I don't like the body language at all. So we're going to go Nashville puck line. No problem recommending that. Here we go. For the first time, I think this is the first time in the show, he's going to speak. The great man is going to speak. Alex B. Smith, Rangers and Predators, his first game on his card for this Saturday slate. Alex, finally, we can welcome you to the show. What are you looking at here in this game down in Music City?
Yeah, thanks, guys. One of those days again where like a lot of West Coast or later night games, so I don't talk until the end of it. But nevertheless, this is an interesting matchup. Like I said, I've been giving the Rangers grief all year. I haven't, I've been proud with the fact that they've been playing so poorly because I have season points total under. So I'm hoping that they keep this miserable run going. That being said, Nashville's looking really good right now. We talked about it in the last show about how Mike Fisher, he might not show up on the ice and produce big, but in the locker room and as far as him being back on the ice with the fans, that's going to bring some energy. And if you add any more energy to what's already one of the more energetic arenas in the league in Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, that's always going to help the Predators. But this Ranger team, not only have they been bad defensively, they've been absolutely horrific offensively. As I mentioned in the chat, they've scored 3 or fewer goals in 14 of the last 17 games. And if they can't find consistent offense against some of the weaker teams that they've played lately, they're not going to be able to find it against a really solid defensive core like Nashville. Both goalies, Pekka Rinne and UC Saros, have been playing very well. So I'm looking at the under here at 5.5. I grabbed it last night at -$1.05. I don't see where that, where the Rangers are going to get any points here. The only worry is that, like you said, the puck line with Nashville. I was on that the other night when they played LA. Hopefully Nashville doesn't come out and score 6-7 goals of their own, because they could do that at any point. But I think they keep it tight. And I know the Rangers, they know they can't get into a shootout with this team. I think they're going to try and slow things down. So I like the under 5.5.
Yeah, 2-0, 3-1, 4-1 Nashville. That works. I could see a score like that. Like, you're right, Rangers offensively are not good right now. Defensively, they're awful, but you could still get a 4-1 game easily in this game. And Nashville puck line for me gets there, and under 5.5 for you gets there. So definitely possible. But yeah, the Rangers, to me, that's a real red flag to me. When you come out of the All-Star break, you're out at home. Yeah, you're in a situation where you're still there in the mix for a wild card spot, and you lay an egg, and it was a no-show. You could tell right away early in that hockey game, Rangers weren't geared in to play a game. That's a problem. That's a big-time issue I got with them right now. So we'll go with Nashville there. Minnesota, Dallas, no line on this game, 19-20 on the rotation. Minnesota, give them credit last night, 5-2. They took advantage of a Vegas team that really had no gas in the tank. I mean, if you saw that game last night, I mean, they were just – that's the first time where you were seeing a lethargic, pedestrian effort from Vegas, and it was really all schedule related. The mind and the mind wanted to give you that effort. If you're Vegas, the body just wasn't cooperating with a lot of those players last night. You could see it. They've been through a grueling schedule this week. They've had a lot of road games, tough travel as well. So it finally caught up with them last night. Emotional games too. Let's not forget the emotional toll the last 2 games that Vegas has played took on them. Emotional, intense. The come from behind win against Calgary in stunning fashion. Intense, controversy-filled game against Winnipeg, in which they pulled it out in overtime, and they just they didn't have much in the tank. So it's nothing that the Vegas has to worry about. It's just one of those games that the schedule finally caught up with them a little bit. And it looked that way last night against Minnesota. But Minnesota was better at home than on the road. We've said that time and time again. They took advantage of it, played a good hockey game. Give them credit for that. We'll see if they can duplicate that, though, now as they go, as I say, on the road, where it's been trouble for a lot of the season for Minnesota. Consistently play well on the road. You got the Dallas Stars now back home here in this hockey game. They finally got off the schneid. I don't know if you want to say the Dallas Stars fixed everything, that the little struggle that they were going through, because beating Arizona doesn't do anything for me. I don't know if it does anything for anyone else either, but at least they won a game. They got out of the funk. Maybe that carries over to tonight. Dallas is probably going to be priced pretty hefty at home. Usually that's the case. So probably a game I'm going to stay away from. I don't trust Minnesota yet on the road. They did beat Columbus on the road earlier this week. So again, we got to see more signs of that. Can this Minnesota team finally start to play consistent and better, improved hockey on the road? That's going to be the key for them. Because if they can, maybe it's then going to become a team that I think might be able to make noise in the playoffs. But until then, until they start stringing some more road W's together, still a team I have a hard time trusting. Chicago, Calgary, next game, 21-22 on the rotation. Late night, we got 3 West Coast late night, 10:05 Eastern puck drop games to talk about to wrap up the card. Calgary laying -130 to -140. Pretty much in that range. The total 5.5, shaded to the over. And look, now, okay, one game you just have a situation for Calgary where, last 2 minutes, okay, bad play by Frolik. Why are you throwing Alex is involved. Let's go back up to Minnesota, Dallas. You're right. It's on.
Hey, Alex is here.
I know. Jeez. He was so quiet
wow.
for the first 40 minutes of the show. I often forget he's one of the friggin' panelists here. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Alex actually does have something on Minnesota, Dallas. Go for it, Alex. Take it away.
This is an interesting thing. I actually tweeted this a couple of days ago. In Dallas tonight, they're calling it's throwback night. They've lowered the prices of everything from where it was back in 1993, but they're also going to be wearing the uniforms during warm-ups from 1993. And a lot of people might not know this, but Minnesota fans are still pissed off about the whole North Star thing. They've never let that go. There's always been a back and forth, not so much with the players, but definitely with the fans between Minnesota and Dallas tonight. So I think that's going to be really interesting. They're going to be bringing that up a lot. And, like I said, it's a well-documented thing that these two fan bases at least don't like each other. But that being said, you said Minnesota, obviously a much better home team than road team, but they've done really well against Dallas. They've won 5 of the last 6 meetings. And I mean, you think they would start to try and carry this momentum. They won 6 of the last 8 overall. This is now the time where they need to start winning some games on the road. Like I said, this is, every point is crucial, especially within the division. So I'm looking at Minnesota tonight. I think this will be a game where they will be, fired up a bit. Take some of that momentum from beating the top team in the West in Vegas, even though they've also been, a bit dreadful at times in the second night of back-to-backs. They've lost 5 of the last 6 in that spot. But I think we do see a better effort from the Wild tonight in a big division game. So I'm looking at Minnesota here.
All right, Minnesota, and they'll be catching a nice plus price for sure on the road where they've struggled for the most part. Second night of back-to-backs. Again, watch the goaltending situation for Minnesota. You could see potentially here an Alex Stalock sighting after Devin Dubnyk was in net last night. So again, something you want to watch for if you're going to bet that game. Just know who's in net. Moving now to Chicago, Calgary. And like I was saying about Calgary, it's one thing, okay, the last 2 minutes, Frolik throws the puck on his own goalie, and then it's right there for Howlett to put it in, tie the game, and then Marchessault perfect shot after that, 3-2, and next thing you know, a 2-1 lead with less than 2 minutes to go evaporates, you lose 4-2. Brutal, horrible loss, but, it's just one game that things just went awry in the last 2 minutes. Then we saw what happened against Tampa Bay Thursday night, and now you're starting to think, is this a psyche thing now? Because that's now 2 games in a row. You've spit the bit and choked up a lung with a lead. If you're the Calgary Flames, I mean that was horrible. That was a epic meltdown. Epic. I thought the Vegas meltdown was bad. The Tampa meltdown was even worse. It was just one bad thing happened. The 4-3 goal late in the third period, which got Tampa back in the door, and right away in the start of the third period, you could see Calgary was tensing up, getting nervous, getting just worried that bad things were about to happen again, and Tampa scores first 30 seconds of the third period to tie that game 4-4, and then it was a boat race from that point on. It was all Tampa Bay, 3 more goals, and they end up winning 7-4. Okay, Calgary pushed hard in the last 5 minutes when they were down 7-4. Vasilevsky did make a couple of real good saves, but still, the air was taken out of the balloon. It's another horrifying loss on home ice for this Calgary team that has now lost 6 straight games, 0-6 their last 6. You know where I'm going here. I'm not laying a price with this Calgary team, not when their confidence is fragile, the psyche's not there. Now, Chicago on the road's a little bit of a dubious proposition. This is a Hawks team that's up and down like a yo-yo right now. We see it night in and night out. How on earth do you stomach actually the way this team plays on a night in, night out basis? It's just so bloody inconsistent. But you're still talking about a Chicago team that catching a plus price here, a decent price. Again, I'm not falling with laying road chalk like I was the other night when they played Vancouver, but catching a plus price here. Calgary teams got to be questioning themselves. If they weren't questioning themselves after the Vegas loss, they certainly are after this Tampa loss, because that third period was just things bad. When things start to spiral down for Calgary, all of a sudden, we're starting to see them not respond at all in a positive light. That is an issue right now. So I'm going to make a case for Chicago. I'm going to take them. It's not a best bet, but I think I'm going to keep riding this negative momentum that Calgary's on right now until they prove me otherwise. So we're going to go with Chicago here, plus 120 tonight. Nice road dog price against the Flames, who are not only struggling to win games, but struggling with their confidence and their psyche right now. That is becoming extremely clear after these last 2 games. Alex B. Smith, obviously involved, talking Hawks in Calgary. He loves his Hawks. Does he love them tonight? Does he think they got a win in them against this sputtering and really reeling Calgary team right now, Alex? What do you think here?
I actually do like them tonight. I've given this team a lot of shit lately. They've, like I said, they've been super inconsistent, but Calgary's in free fall mode right now. They look absolutely horrific, as you mentioned, and I don't see where they're going to be able to get their bearings back against the Hawks team. Yeah, they lost at Vancouver the other night, but that was the first loss they had on the road in 4 games. They were 4-1 the last 5 on the road. They've won 6 of the last 9 meetings against the Flames. Jeff Glass is getting the start. He's a Calgary native. We already saw him beat the Flames once before, so I'm sure he's going to be juiced up, be playing in front of his hometown once again. So like I said, a really solid plus price. I actually got it yesterday at plus 110, so I thought that line was going to move the other way, and now plus 120. Definitely loving the Hawks tonight, so I'm rolling with Chicago.
All right, Chicago, agreement, Alex and I like Glass over Forsberg. I really do. I think Glass has played well at times. I mean, even in the losses, the loss to, what was it, that home game, the Tampa Bay game at home, I thought he played really well in that hockey game. And just weren't able to get the job done. It wasn't Jeff Glass's fault, though. I thought he played a strong game. I think he's had the odd bobble here and there, but for the most part, he's been solid in net for Chicago. And I like the fact that he'd be starting this game in Calgary, a team that he's already beaten once. So again, you got to wonder, and I said this the other day with Thursday when I had Tampa, which was the best bet for me Thursday show. It's a Calgary team. You wonder where their headspace is right now, and you got to wonder even more after that Tampa loss now where it is. So that's a concern for me. I don't like going against Calgary quite as much tonight as Thursday night, but enough to take Chicago for sure. I think it's a good price, and Chicago, again, you don't know sometimes what you're going to get from them, but they might be able to take advantage of this Calgary team tonight. Tampa Bay, Vancouver, 23-24 on the rotation. Tampa laying a big road number here, -160 to -165 as a road favorite. The total 5.5 across the board. Tampa Bay lost to Winnipeg in that first game after the All-Star break, but they bounced back Thursday night against that aforementioned Calgary Flames team. Wasn't looking good at one point. They were down 4-2 in that game, but again, Calgary all of a sudden having trouble protecting leads, and Tampa Bay was able to take advantage of that, storm all the way back from 4-2 down in that hockey game to come back and win at 7-4 against Calgary. So they get back in the win column. By the way, something you're going to want to keep in mind, that win over Calgary now makes Tampa 12-4 on the season off a loss. That is definitely a trend you've got to be aware of. When elite teams like the Lightning lose their last game, that's not the spot you want to be going against them most times, because those good teams, when you're an elite team, you're an elite team for a reason. A loss creates residue in the dressing room. Nobody's happy. Nobody likes it. Nobody's enjoying it. So you get an enthusiastic, intense, focused effort the next time out from a lot of these teams in those spots, and we've seen that consistently from Tampa Bay. The good teams want to bounce back from a loss. The bad teams that aren't playing well, that are bickering at each other in the dressing room like the Buffalo Sabres have all season, they don't give a shit about bouncing back off a loss. We suck. We know it. We're not going to go that extra mile to try to get better or try to fix what's wrong. You get those kind of efforts from a Tampa Bay Lightning because they are an elite team that does care a little bit more than maybe some of the bottom feeders in the league when they're coming off a bad performance. So again, trends like that off a loss with the good to elite teams, something you want to keep in mind. It's always something I look to bet in the NHL, have for years, and Tampa Bay is just one of those indications. However, Tampa Bay's not coming off a loss tonight. They're coming off, obviously, that Calgary win, and obviously they're priced like the better team, laying more than -150 on the road. Let's give this Vancouver team credit. I mean, the effort every night is fantastic from this team. Some nights the goaltending's not there. Some nights they turn the puck over, make a defensive gaffe or two. Some nights they don't get the goal scoring, the offense. But the effort's there, and Travis Green's instilled that in this hockey team. You got to give him credit. 2 wins coming out of the break, 4-3 against Colorado, 4-2 against Chicago on home ice. In this price range, I have no interest going against Vancouver. They're taking a step up in class big time here, facing this Tampa Bay team. But Vancouver's effort, has been terrific. And this is a home game against the best team in the East on Hockey Night in Canada. You can expect a good effort here from Vancouver. Is it going to be enough to win? I'm not sure, but this is a game clearly from a side perspective. Vancouver's going to be up for this game. Not saying take them. I'm not going to trust them to beat Tampa because I like Tampa a lot, but there's not the spot I'll be looking to go with Tampa Bay tonight for sure. Vancouver's been a plucky, feisty team. They've got Bo Horvat back now. Brock Besser's been a sensation as a rookie offensively. There's some good things happening with Vancouver, and their effort every night seems to be there. We'll see if they can bring it tonight. Should be an interesting game. I'm fascinated to see how Vancouver plays tonight against this juggernaut Tampa Bay team, but wouldn't sell them short. I mean, because every time I do, that's usually when they come up and pull a little bit of a rabbit out of their hat and pull a surprise. So a very interesting game to watch. One I probably will not have a wager on, but looking forward to seeing how that one goes. We got last game on the card to wrap it up. Arizona, LA, 25-26 on the rotation. LA just opening up now, by the way, the number on this game. LA about -205 at home against Arizona, and another 5. Can you believe it? Not 1, but 2 5s on the card in terms of totals. 5 shaded to the over, -145 in this game. Kings and the Coyotes. Kings returning home from their mini little 2-game road trip. Started out well against Dallas, very well. And then ended equally as poorly against the Nashville Predators the other night for this LA Kings team. Now they return home facing the Arizona Coyotes. Should be a bounce-back spot, but I'm not looking to lay minus 205 with them to figure that out. Very good job, I think, by the odds makers actually bringing this total down to 5, because we know with Arizona, their offense is, especially against good defensive teams, can't be trusted to produce goals consistently. And we know LA's offense is certainly nothing to write home about on a lot of occasions. So, the fact that they've lowered this total to 5 kind of makes sense. 5.5 would have had me interested in an under in this game. 5, not so much. It's just damn hard to go under 5 in this era of NHL hockey. I mean, you could have a 3-1 game. If it's 3-1, these games that are totaled 5, something to keep in mind in the future. If it's 3-1, 2 minutes to go in the third period, you could have the coach pull the goalie because you need 2 goals to tie the game with 2 minutes left. And there you go. There's your empty net goal the other way, 4-1. And at a 5, it's a push. You all of a sudden can't win your under. So that is the difficulty, and that's the struggle with betting an under when it's 5. It's very, very tough these days to get a game under a 5. 5.5, you can still do it. Certainly 6, 6.5, 7 when we've seen it this year with the Vegas Islanders game. You can get those games under, but 5 is difficult, at least for me. Difficult to bet those games routinely under the total, even though that is my lean totals-wise in this game, Arizona taking on LA. That's going to wrap it up. That's our card for the Saturday slate, a big one as always. So we got best bets to wrap up the show. Andrew's under the weather. He did not send me a best bet, so it'll just be 3 best bets for today from us. And if Alex is pulling a Mike Francesa there for a second, he had his eyes closed. That's pretty funny, yeah.
Well, Alex is done, so
I was actually putting in a bet right then, so that's sorry about that.
Oh no, that's okay. At least you weren't sleeping. That's good.
So you bet with your eyes closed?
Yeah.
Okay. Please take our advice, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm putting people to sleep. I'm boring everybody. That's what it is. That's what's causing it. Yeah. Best bets. Here we go. Saturday card. Let's go to Dana first. Your best bet for today.
Okay, well, my best bet tonight, I mean, certainly I think that the pace in the Red Wings Florida game is going to be an overpace. There's going to be a ton of shots on net. Just depends on whether or not the goaltending holds up in this. But the over in this series has cashed in 7 of the last 8 games. I think it's going to cash in 8 of the last 9 after tonight.
All right, there we go. Detroit, Florida, over 5.5. Best bet for Dana Lane for this Saturday card. I think he's reading my mail. Alex B. Smith. Alex B. Smith, your best bet for this Saturday card.
I'm going with my hometown boys tonight with the Blackhawks. Like I say, you find it now at plus 120. I think this is a spot where the Hawks will show up again after a bit of a tough loss against Vancouver. Like I said, they had won 4 straight on the road before that loss the other night. They've won 6 of the last 9 against Calgary. Jeff Glass playing at home. Should be a good effort. So I'm hoping the Hawks win tonight. I'm looking at them for my best bet.
All right, Chicago, no argument. Plus Price is an underdog against the Calgary Flames, who've got to be reeling a bit confidence-wise. Best bet for Alex, and mine is ditto as Dana. Detroit, Florida, over 5.5 in this game tonight. Again, I like the fact, again, we had a nice over winner with Florida the other night. You got to like where they are offensively. You got to like them even more offensively if they get to face Jimmy Howard tonight, who's had a real tough time in net. It should be him in net. Satarian, not sold on him whatsoever. I think Detroit coming out of their offensive funk a little bit the other night. Pelton shots on goal again. And again, as Dana said, Detroit, Florida, it's been an over series. Florida's been an over machine on home ice all season long. I think that continues tonight. Detroit, Florida, over 5.5. Best bet for me. And that's going to wrap up the show for this Saturday. Thanks to everyone in the chat for tuning in and joining us every day on the NHL Ice, guys. We really do appreciate it. Just some programming notes. Jeff Nadeau, Big Man on Campus, and I coming up 11 a.m. Eastern with the college basketball closing line show in an hour from now. And don't forget, Sunday, Super Bowl live betcast, live from Costa Rica, Yaco Beach. Join everybody there during the Patriots.
Not everybody.
Yeah. No, not everybody. No, not us, obviously, but join, Jimmy the Bag, Pete Loshak, Gabe Morency, Donnie Rightside, live SBR Super Bowl betcast from Costa Rica tomorrow. They're going to have a pregame show, a live betcast during the game, postgame show after it. We've got you covered at SBR for your Super Bowl 52 betting entertainment needs. The Betcast live from Costa Rica tomorrow. Make sure you check that out. For Dana Lane and for Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Saturday hockey card. Good luck this weekend. Enjoy Super Bowl 52 as well. We'll be back on Tuesday. Enjoy the games and